Former Navy Commander Bobby Jones, welcome to Meidas Defense. Let's start with Hegseth on this incredibly symbolic, significant day and the attempted erasure of the service of Black Americans in particular, not to mention Native Americans and others. Your take.
Wow, where to begin? First, thanks for having me on. So basically, I am watching the Secretary of Defense, where only one person ranks higher than him in our military chain of command, go out of their way to let Americans know that despite all the history, all the background, even the original sin of slavery, that being American is limited to one particular demographic. Full stop. And when people try to come at me sideways and tell me, "Oh, that's not the case," you're jumping to conclusions. Let me be abundantly clear. I'm not the one that's coming up with these policies. I'm just showing you the action. As James Baldwin once said, here is the evidence when he was talking about racism in the 60s. The evidence is this: the first black person to die, the first person to die for America the Boston Massacre was a black sailor, Christmas Addicts. Okay. And in every step of the American evolution, two things have happened. The most valuable commodity was black labor, and the first person to fight for this country were Black people, even though they never fully experienced full citizenship, even to this day, when you look at the statistics. That being said, we kept showing up. And Hegseth, quite honestly, does not want people to understand that there is a group of people that are way more patriotic than Pete Hegseth will ever be. You know why? It's one thing to fight for your country and to fight and to protect the rights you enjoy. It is a completely other argument to fight for rights that you never had. And to this day, at the United States military, at the Pentagon, the highest propensity to serve are Black men. 1 out of 4 of us that are able-bodied had served in the military. Okay? These are the facts. And so Juneteenth in particular shows the mindset of Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Understand, Juneteenth happened and it informed slaves that were free really almost 2 years earlier during the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation that you are in fact free. Even if you just go with Appomattox and the surrender of General Lee, then months of free labor, months of slave owners hiding the fact that these people were free. And it wasn't until the Union marched in that they let people know it was free. I will tell people why Juneteenth is important because I get this question all the time, right? At what point in American history do you say all people in this country were free, at least legally? You can't say July 4th because Frederick Douglass said it better than I ever will. What is July 4th to the slave? Okay. The Emancipation Proclamation, border state slaves were still enslaved. Okay. Appomattox happened. South didn't tell slaves that they were free. It wasn't until June that people in Texas heard it, and it wasn't until December of 1865 that the 13th Amendment was even passed, completely abolishing it because it had to be, I don't know, approved and ratified. So if I am an African American that is trying to serve my country during World War II, and I'm on the beaches of Iwo Jima, because guess what? Unlike Clint Eastwood showing, Black people were there at the Flags of Our Fathers, that whole movie. We were there after finally integrating the Marine Corps in 1944. What am I supposed to think about independence and freedom? I'm sitting there getting shelled on the black beaches of Iwo Jima. I've been on that island. Okay. I've been at Mount Suribachi. And the fact that that happened is mind blowing. And those people were living in separate facilities, saving their white counterparts, all sorts of things. What am I supposed to say when Hegseth removes this? And I'm sitting there saying, what am I fighting for? The Declaration of Independence didn't apply to me. And so when you finally give us a date to give us a glimpse of, hey, you are human too, you are an American citizen too, you decide not to emphasize it, you decide to take it away, especially in the Department of Defense, where, heaven help us, Black people were signing up to fight for independence from the colonies, independence from slavery and Civil War, independence from Nazism and fascism in World War II, every conflict. But you don't want to acknowledge this because you know that the truth matters way more than the myth, and you need to keep the myth there so you and people like you feel better. It's insanity. It's insanity to me. That's why I try to keep my emotions in check when I think about it, because I have family members that came back from specifically World War II in Korea that could not use the benefits that they fought for in the GI Bill, housing, VA loans, all of these things that killed a generation of actual wealth accumulation. And Hegseth is like, as a matter of fact, we're not going to even mention this. We're not going to talk about this. We can't do this. We can't do, So it's in line with what he does, but at the same time, he's fighting these culture wars while we just got our ass handed to us with Iran.
Iran. I definitely want to ask you about Iran. I just looked up the verbiage again from the Pentagon. Their approach to Juneteenth is, quote, passive. And I
Mm.
want your help pulling out the parallel in the Juneteenth story to what's happening today, because there's something significant, and I can't quite put my finger on it, about it being Texas and about the slaveholders in Texas hiding the truth for 2 years until the army shows up. And it feels a little bit like some of the information ecosystems we create
Mhm.
these days, the stovepiping of misinformation and keeping people in the dark from what their power is, what the truth is, the levers they have to make real change. I mean, it was those
Mhm.
slaveholders in Texas, no
Yep.
coincidence,
Yep.
that
Yep.
refused until the Union Army showed up to
I,
tell people what was going on.
I have so many thoughts. I'm glad you mentioned Texas, and this is no offense to people that live in Texas or
Got
the
family
current
there.
people.
Yep.
Yeah, right. But understand, Texas identity is American myth. Its whole identity from day one, when it was admitted after being an independent nation, has been American myth. The myth of the American cowboy. I have a news flash for all of you watching. The first American cowboys were African Americans and Latino Americans. And just think about this logically for a second. With all the tall 10-gallon hats you see, would white men lay in the fields with animals directly after the Civil War to move them around from point A to point B? Hell no. They were like, tell the field hands, the slaves, and these new Latinos that we're now saying are citizens, y'all can do that. So when we talk about Texas, let's start there. Their identity is based on myth. And so when we say everything is bigger in Texas, what they really mean is this this view of the white American male looking over the vast West and being superior, being great. That's why you have the Hollywood machine that showed you cowboys versus Indians and all of these things. And so for that group, that state, that was an independent nation first, to sit there and say, "Oh, we cannot let them know that they are free." The reality of it is, the second those slaves are free, that white man that has put himself on the pedestal with that the hat that you all love and stuff like has to go to work. Has to go to work. And so they would have you believe that it is their grit is what settled the American West, when it was the unpaid and free labor of slaves, and then the sharecropping system and everything that came into place. Now, when you think about it from that term, right, and you see Hegseth, he would have you believe that the American military has been as successful as it has been for over 250 years solely because of the daring audacity of white men, which is completely false, completely fake. If you take out every minority group and women out of the American military history, America does not win the revolution. It does not win the Civil War. And it sure as hell does not win World War II. These are facts. These are facts. When you look at the units and how they, and the beautiful thing about this, Ken, is when you go out of your way to segregate and separate the units, you can really see what they did. So, the 444th Combat Brigade of all Asian Americans, you segregated them. All they did was get more Medal of Honors and Purple Hearts than any other unit in the Army's history. That's all they
Yep.
did. You separated the Tuskegee Airmen and said, you Negroes can't fly. And all they do is become the greatest aviation unit the United States has ever fielded. You went out of your way to do these things. And all it was a platform to show not only are these people American citizens, they are more than likely the best of us. And you
Can
can't
you
deal with the real truth.
Can you help us understand that the 444th from Hawaii, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Navajo Code Talkers, why they
Yep.
became so good? Because there are competing theories, and it's always fascinated me. One is that you had to be the best of the best to make it. Another one, which I really am drawn to, is the fierce patriotism, the feeling that we have to be better than everybody else because everyone's looking at us, and we
Mhm,
better damn well succeed because this
mhm,
story is going to be told for generations. I was never given that speech as a white guy at VQ1. I was never told that
mhm.
your great great grandkids are going to care what you did here. I'm putting, I'm probably saying too much because I want your thoughts on
No,
why these units are so storied in the annals of American military history.
I have been told that given that speech since the first day I went to school, and I mean like kindergarten, growing up in Georgia, in the Atlanta area, going to an elite private school by middle school. And then you better believe when I got to Annapolis, I heard that because I was going to quit because I was struggling, blah, blah. And it was the first black graduate of the Naval Academy, Commander Wesley Brown, who
Mhm.
told me, you don't have an option here. And the thing that people need to understand when you are consistently the only one in these spaces, the quote token or the one that slipped through the cracks or whatever, the pressure of excellence is there. And it's not because you have to say, hey, I need to be excellent. It is because the microaggressions that you deal with on a regular daily basis. I can guarantee you there are women that are in boardrooms that will be able to identify with that. There are people of color, this, that, and the other, because at the end of the day, you don't get the margin for error. Pete Hegseth has how many DUIs? He's beaten
This is
women.
a
He's
great
done all of this
comparison.
stuff. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And he's the Secretary of Defense. Let my black ass do one of those things. I'm locked up. I'm ruined for life. That is it. That is it. So, Ken, to answer your question, the Tuskegee Airmen knew they had no choice but to be excellent. I'll take it a step further. The first naval officers in U.S. history, the Golden 13. If you don't know the story, there's a great book that y'all should read. Let me tell you, at the time of World War II, when they finally allowed us to even be looked at for commissions in 1944, the average attrition rate for white officers going through the program was about 75%. So they said, we want to get 12 black officers and it'll be a nice PR thing, blah, blah. The problem is the 16 of them that they grabbed all were highly educated, went to HBCUs, had done very well in the Navy, and they met at Camp Robert Smalls, the segregated side of Great Lakes, the boot camp for the Navy.
Mhm.
And that night, they made a pact. They were like, every damn last one of us is getting through that program. They set the record for scoring in that program. So much so they thought they cheated and they had them retested. And they still succeeded at a higher score, damn near 90 something percent. Okay. They knew if they let all 16 of them men become commissioned, where they crushed a program that white men failed 1 out of 4, that this would kill, once again, the American myth of someone being superior. What they did was they commissioned 12 as regular ensigns, one as a warrant officer, and then promoted 3 to E9, the highest rank that you can be enlisted, and sent them back to the fleet. Why? Because they did not want to deal with the embarrassment of having to explain black excellence. Full stop. Right? So when I hear this man talking about, I don't want to celebrate Juneteenth, son, look, you know how hard it is for those of us who are given the opportunity to compete, kick ass, do well, and just like this man has done, strike your name from the list of promotion to admiral or general and have to be publicly cool about it. Blows my ever loving mind. They are better than me. They are better than me. This is why I retired at 22 years in, because I cannot play these political games. At every opportunity, I'm going to be very specific, blacks, Latinos, Asians, other groups have had the opportunity to compete on an equal playing field. You have seen us way more often than not excel past our white counterparts. And I'm just being very blunt and honest. The military is a very, very extreme crucible, depending on what you do. Right. And it's unforgiving for mistakes. We have a zero tolerance mentality. So when you see a black name or a Hispanic name or a woman who's, at some point departed the pattern to have kids and come back in and not miss a beat, be on the list for selection to flag officer, and the first thing you do is just strike their names. How can you not take it personal? How can you not see that it's an agenda? How can you sit there and say, I believe I was given a fair shot? It's insane. Yeah, the name of the book, everybody's asking, The Golden 13. I'm telling y'all, the stuff that they went through after they got commission. And that's the other piece of this. The last point I want to make on this, Ken, is even when we achieve the consistent pressure cooker of being excellent never relents. I I love my roommate from the Naval Academy. He's a great guy. He is still in it. He is kicking butt. But we have had this conversation that him being a white guy from Sonoma, California, and me being a black guy from Atlanta, Georgia, we have two different sets of rules in which we have to operate. It does not make sense. It's not fair. It's not, but it's the truth. And for Hegseth to so blatantly make it known, even when you follow the rules, even when you excel, that pigmentation, I don't like it. I want to stand next to it. I don't want to. That's where you have to seriously say, okay, you want to judge me on my skin color? Let's judge you on your performance. You got your ass handed to you
Yeah.
by people who don't even have a capital Navy. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the disaster that continues to unfold in Iran. We had a supposed MOU, all 14 points signal just an abject humiliation of the United States. And you've been there. You've patrolled
Hmm.
the Strait of
Hmm.
Hormuz. You bring an
Hmm.
expertise to this that Hexas can't come close to, much less anyone in Trump's orbit. What's your assessment of what I will call a surrender document? It was even signed at Versailles. I am shocked that nobody pulled the president aside and explained the significance of that to him, but that's what you
Couldn't
get
believe
when you
that.
have an administration that doesn't read books. Bobby, all yours.
So what we have here is the lackification of a White House administration, meaning you have lackeys everywhere and they have replaced subject matter expertise. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, and you see the GOP is like, what the hell just happened, as well as the Democrats. When you have people that have no idea what the hell they're doing, let me just give y'all some I guess some reference. The JCPOA, Barack Obama's joint cooperation, that whole thing that everybody talks about was 159 pages. It was put together over what, 4 years, and you had Nobel Prize winning physicists solicited for opinion. Okay? You literally had the best in the world working on this. To compare and contrast, you have a 2-page memorandum of understanding that was put together by Trump's
A
golf buddy,
realtor.
yeah, a real estate mogul golf buddy, and son-in-law who took a tour of a nuclear facility in Tennessee. Okay, let's just start with the objectives of what they said is supposed to be happening here. Also, in the JCPOA, you had multiple nations, our primary NATO allies and Gulf region partners involved in the process the whole time. So when it happened, there was no breaking, no breaching, this, that, and the other. And let me tell you why this is important. That thing was signed at the end of 2015. I was on deployment. I was second in command. I was the XO of USS Anzio. We had to go find and rescue basically 10 kidnapped sailors. I don't know if y'all remember Farsi Island,
Oh,
these
yeah.
small boats got captured. We were the point on this, and the reason no shots were fired, and believe you me, there were tense moments. That's a whole nother story. Was because John Kerry, who was Secretary of State, was able to talk to the Iranian foreign minister, and they said, we do not want this to be a spark to undo the deal. People acted like they had some damn common sense. We took a powder, they took a powder, and we were able to recover those sailors without a shot being fired. This is the importance of having diplomatic professionals, career professionals who build relationships in the regions that they operate. This is why you want that. Instead, they come in the second term of Trump and fire all of them.
Yeah.
So there's no subject matter expertise at the table. And you wonder why we can't get a permanent ceasefire. You wonder why that this MOU that was just printed will be out the window. Heck, Israel damn near did it last night with their bombing in Lebanon. This is insane to me. This is what that American ego, that American myth mentality that I just mentioned When it's put on the international stage, it has no credibility, and you see how the world is reacting. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Bobby, I'm surprised, and I'll do it for you, that you haven't mentioned the main reason that Trump rejected the JCPOA was racism, was that
I
it
was
was
gonna.
negotiated.
I'm trying to be cool, but the bottom line is, anything that Barack Obama put together as a black man has been completely targeted by the Trump administration. It bothers him that, you know, Barack Obama seemed to be way cooler, has a way higher approval rating, all of this. But you're right.
Better
And I will take it a
library.
step. Oh, and the library opening, all the living presidents were there except for one.
Yep.
Except for one, right? What's interesting to me about that aspect of this is Barack Obama, I don't think that deal with Iran gets done, the JCPOA, if there's another president in office. I do believe there is something about Obama being a black man that changed the tenor of how he got to deal with Iran. People don't want to say that. I'll say that. If you look at Iran's propaganda since this thing has started out, they have targeted the African American community, saying, we understand what you've gone through in that country. We understand what Donald Trump has done to you. Those little Lego videos, they have talked about black history in America more than anything the Trump administration has done since they've come back into office. Now, that's not a coincidence. That is because culturally, the people of Iran respected Barack Obama and his process. You don't get the deal done unless you don't. And so now we're here. Obama is opening up his library. And, people are trying to trash that because it was a star-studded event, and yet celebrities want nothing to do with President Trump. See the difference between the UFC event and the opening of this library. But here's the thing. Obama even said it. He's like, listen, with our deal, we kept lines of communication open. There were many systematic checks, unannounced visits, way more robust than anything that MOU is going to lead to. And at the same time, not only does it basically kill a permanent, in my opinion, a permanent regular diplomatic relationship in Iran, it's also destroyed the political career of J.D. Vance. He's done.
Yeah.
He's done. He can't run for president. Marco Rubio, done. They can't run for president. Trump has burnt down everything around him, right? And who's left to pick up the pieces? The American people. Our gas prices will not go back down, people. I'm just sorry. They're not. This is a new permanent floor that we're at. You look at what economists are saying, it's true. He gave away the game when he talked about the strategic reserves. We only have 4 weeks left. Trump said that yesterday. He also said, hey, I'm willing to take on missiles, them having nuclear material, because the only thing he understands is economics and the transactional nature of it. And so he is terrified that the economy being so bad will lead to the midterm wipeout, where it's not about impeachment. Everybody keeps talking about impeachment, Ken. Oh, the Democrats won't have enough votes. No. It's about the gavel. When the Democrats get the majority in the House, and God help them also in the Senate, they get subpoena power and public goddamn hearings. And if you think that the Epstein files were something before, let these witnesses be called to the goddamn floor of the House and the Senate. And it's all the cable news networks are recording it, and Donald Trump's name comes up. And the lackeys like, Howard Lutnitz and all of them get called out. That is the fear. It's not the impeachment. It is the fear of the power to bring things to light. And Trump recognizes that. The Republican Party has told him, if we get wiped out, this is what's going to happen. That's why he's willing to throw all of this into the trash bin. And he said, to hell with Israel. Israel, as you mentioned before, they are the ones that are dictating what happens, because if they continue to bomb Lebanon and Syria, Iran's going to keep doing what they do, and the economy will continue to tank, which is where my betting money is.
Well, that fear of accountability from a Democratic-controlled House and, like you said, God willing, Senate is what is pushing this administration to pull out all the stops to make sure that that we don't have the type of election we are used to in this country, including and we'll make this relatable to the Meidas defense audience, including the deployment of U.S. military personnel to polling places. And it will be done under the guise of protecting the vote. It will be done under, I can only imagine, some false pretenses about external threats. But this administration has shown time and again it will politicize the military. It did it over the weekend with this ridiculous
Yes.
cage match on the South Lawn and
Yes.
Marine Corps honor guards that were forced to render salutes to
Couldn't believe that.
UFC performers because they happen to
Mhm.
have Medal of Honor winners walking next to them. How afraid should we be of this administration using the military, especially the National Guard, at polling places come November?
I think there's a realistic threat of that. And I say I don't want to be hyperbolic, but the threat is there, and I'll tell you why. The polling is showing that there is pushback in some of
Yeah,
the most red areas. Additionally, in my home state of Georgia, the state next to me in South Carolina, the Republicans push back against Trump saying we're not doing redistricting because they already see how energized people are to vote down here. This is a Rubicon that the Republican Party has to decide if they're going to cross. At some point, they're going to have to break away from the MAGAverse. They don't know if it's now or is it after November, but I can tell you this, the political calculation of continuing to back President Trump by the Republican Party is being discussed. Having troops at polling places, having custom border patrol or ICE, because people kind of forgetting about them, they've kind of receded into the background. Let's check back here at the end of the summer and see what happens, right? Those things are tools that the federal government can use to influence state elections. People need to remember the Constitution says states run the
that's right.
election, which is why Trump has tried to get their voter rolls. He just can't grab them, which is why he has targeted states that have said, hell no, you're not getting our voter rolls. That's where ICE is gone. Minnesota, these places. He's trying to coerce them into giving up their constitutional right and, most importantly, their constitutional duty. And he's willing to use whatever domestic power he has to include CBP, ICE, and the National Guard. The National Guard, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is still in Washington D.C. In case you have forgot, they're
Mhm.
still there. Why? Why? To mop up algae in the reflecting pool? Who knows? But they're still there. And so, and I'm looking in the chat, why would any Medal of Honor recipient allow themselves to be used like this? You got to understand something. And this is something that I want to be very clear since we're on Midas Military here. You guys need to stop asking the military why we submit ourselves to civilian authority. Okay. If it's not illegal and the president of the United States asks us to do it, we're going to do it. There's nothing illegal about that. What y'all should be mad about is you guys, civilians, putting these clowns in office in the first place. Stop expecting the United States military to bail you out of your domestic decisions. We have a hard enough job, right? Okay. You ask us to go and do the hardest thing, whether it's disaster relief, whether it's to go into combat, blah, blah, blah. I got it. Now we're supposed to be the moral conscience of the country too. Okay. We're trying to even make sure our votes get counted because they're trying to stop the post office from delivering our votes via mail-in ballot. Okay. You guys need to stop asking generals and admirals, why don't y'all do? We're not another country. We're not going to do a military coup in the United States. How about this? Get off your asses and go vote. Get off your asses, go organize. The least you can do, because only less than 1% of us are in the military. Okay? We're not your superheroes. You want to see a hero? Go look in the mirror, go organize, go call your congressman, go down to one of your local civic meetings and say this is unacceptable. But damn, it's not on us to keep doing this stuff too. We follow lawful orders. The Medal of Honor winners, the Medal of Honor recipients, rather, were asked by the White House to come to the White House. They're going to go to the White House. Okay? I'm sorry. It is. Whether it was Obama asking them or Biden or Trump or Bush, they're going to go because they are, out of all of us, the most duty-bound people in the military. They've proven it. So stop. I'm so sick of the military. I'm so yes, and a lot of military veterans did vote for Trump. I agree. Do I agree with them doing it? No, but I sure as hell will protect their right to do it. Here's the question you need to ask yourself: why are the Democrats so disconnected from the damn military? I'm just being real. I'm in Georgia, where the propensity to serve is the highest out of all 50 states in this state. It's because Sam Nunn, who was the head of the Senate Armed Service Committee for decades, we had 12 bases in this little ass state. Okay. So we go. My question is, Sam Nunn was a Democrat. What happened since him being in office and now where the Democrats disconnected from the veteran community and active duty? I'll wait. I'm looking at the chat. Someone tell me. I'm so it gets tiring because I get asked by active duty military, why do people keep asking us to do this? Why do people keep asking me to do that? Man, I've just stood a 48-hour shift on watch and this, that, and I get it. And and here's the thing: the military is not going to speak out on political tools or issues because that's not our job. That's not their job, right? So we just have to absorb the criticism. The military should do this. We can't say anything publicly. But guess what? I'm a retired vet. I can. Stop blaming the damn military. They go into harm's way and they do things that are hard that none of y'all, to be completely honest, unless you serve, can even relate to. How about you protect them and go stand your butt in front of a courthouse? It only takes a couple of hours. King's Rally, Veterans for Responsible Leadership, we're one of the sponsors of that. How about you do something besides sit and complain? I'm not saying all of you do it, but I'm telling you right now, a lot of you do. A lot of you do. And as you do so in the comfort of the society where you can sit there and be a Twitter tough guy or a keyboard warrior, feel free to find out who is organizing locally because the military is not going to save us, people. It's not. And as we sit here and celebrate Juneteenth, the one thing I will tell people about the African American struggle is we never just sat by and hoped someone else would come save us. We never have. The second we were allowed to enlist in the Union Army, we did it in droves. They had to turn some of us away. Take control of your own destiny, America. That is the system that the founding fathers put together. They weren't perfect, believe you me, but they left ultimate power to the people, not the military, not politicians. They left it to you. And I think that would be the message I would give people about Juneteenth. Look at the example of the African American experience in this country. Look at how we refuse. We sent 9 and 10-year-olds to march in front of fire hoses and dogs in this country and go to jail. But you guys want to sit there and look around like someone needs to bail us out. No, get off your ass.
That is incredibly motivational, Bobby. Thanks. We're going to have to leave it there. And you know what? I think we got a regular slot, actually. I'm going to put this out on Substack, but I think Bobby and I are coming to you weekly for a Midas Defense feature. We'll sort out the details on that. So you're going to get plenty more of Commander Bobby Jones in the weeks and months and hopefully years to come. Bobby, thank you as always, and see you back here soon.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.